What is a survival myth that is completely wrong and could get you killed? If lost in a hot desert, do not ration out your water. Drink when you are thirsty and stay hydrated with what you have, even if it only lasts a couple hours, just to keep your mind/body working. Lost hikers have been found dead with plenty of water by their sides because they tried to ration it, became dehydrated without realizing it and eventually died. And no, I still don't know if drinking your pee is a survival alternative. Seems really odd how you can die by dehydration while having plenty of water. I get causing some serious harm to your body trying to save the water for the future, but actually dying of dehydration without noticing that you're shutting down sounds strange. Then again, I've never been in a situation like this. I've had heat stroke before. Genuinely wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Other than thinking you're dying, I think the worst thing is the confusion beforehand. Just fucks your head up. Most people probably are aware of this, but if you're legit suffering from diarrhea, you need to be doing more than just drinking water because you're also losing a lot of salt/electrolytes, and not replenishing those can really fuck you up. You can make a pretty basic Pedialyte/Gatorade at home from adding 60 spoons of sugar and a half teaspoon of salt per liter of water. It won't taste super great, but you can throw in other flavorings to mask it like lemon juice or similar. I did Peace Corps in a tropical region, and most of the volunteers came to dread the inevitable parasite/gee infection episodes, not just because of being incredibly sick but also because of having to drink liters and liters of oars, which is Peace Corps preferred Pedialyte knockoff. Haha. One thing I recall from decades ago, which is no longer true, since Gatorade and other sports drinks are loaded with sugar or sugar substitutes along with all manner of flavor additives these days, but it used to be true way back in the day, when Gatorade came in one color, green, and one flavor, almost always bad. If that green, bad Gatorade tasted good to you, you were really dehydrated. Building a raft to sail to civilization. If you ever find yourself marooned on a deserted island, stay on the island and be found alive versus never found or found dehydrated and dead of exposure. Also walking to safety. If you get lost and your car breaks down, stay with the vehicle. They always find the vehicle. Its inhabitants not so much. If you're that fooked, burn a tire a bit away from the car. Thick black smoke will be visible for a long ways. Small plane pilot here, I can see smoke from really far, and it always grabs attention and merits a diversion. I've dispatched fire trucks more often than I thought I'd do to deal with fires. I fly low enough to tell if it's a controlled fire or not. Black smoke is visible right away, and will have every pilot in the area flying to you and reporting it. After getting bitten by a snake or trying to suck out the venom, do not do that. By sucking the area of the bite, your blood flows faster and increases the speed off the venom acting on your body. It'll just get to your heart quicker and kill you. You're not wrong about the no sucking. The minor detail I'm correcting is that the venom doesn't travel through your bloodstream, it travels through your lymphatic system. When we apply a pressure bandage, it isn't to restrict your blood flow, is to restrict the venom moving through the lymph fluid. Maybe not survival, but ripping a grenade pin with your teeth. Might not get killed, but I guarantee you will lose a lot of blood in the process. Because? I ask, knowing the chance of me ever seeing a real grenade, let alone ripping the pin with my teeth, are next to none. In reality, it's very hard to pull the pin off. Follow flying birds to find water. They could be flying anywhere. Like away from the water they were just at. Yeah, even if all birds did was fly to and from sources of water, 50% of the time this strategy still wouldn't work. Everyone focuses on food and water but completely underestimates how quickly exposure will kill you dead. In some cases, you won't last 24 hours. Bonus addition to this, every guide I have ever read says to make fire first. Making fire is fucking hard sometimes. There are many environments where you flat cannot guarantee a good fire, deserts, because of lack of fuel and anything especially wet. If you get halfway through the night and realize you can't make fire, you are going to have problems. So make shelter. You can always guarantee a shelter and insulated sleeping spot. Make sure your bedding is at least 4 inches thick when you lay on it. I guarantee you'll underestimate just how bad the ground sucks the heat out of you. Make your shelter as small, thick and weatherproof as possible. Went for a survival camp in the forest with scouts once. The first shelter I made was really tall, about 4 feet, and I didn't put much insulation in it and was freezing. The next shelter I made was between two fallen logs and stuffed as much moss as I could in all the cracks, had about 4 inches of moss and pine needles on the ground and on the roof. I actually got too hot during the night, but I'd rather wake up in a pool of sweat than freeze my nuts off. Do not wander off to look for help. Stay put. Stay by your car, or wherever you realize that you are lost. The more you move, the harder it gets for rescue to find you. Make yourself visible, but do not try to find the way back yourself. You already don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going. If it's absolutely necessary to relocate, use something like rocks to make a sturdy arrow/sign of the direction you go. I am directionally challenged, so I would definitely have to do this. I don't usually carry lipstick, but maybe I'll start to go with the Jennifer Connelly method and write arrows on trees. I'm still not clear on if you're supposed to drink your pee or not. You can distill it and get some water back though. I always boil my piss. Not to drink, I just like to boil my piss. I don't know if this is considered as a survival myth, but engaging street fights is never a good option. If there is an altercation that may lead to a street fight, just stay calm and run away from the situation. No one wins real street fights. Someone will either end up in a hospital or in a funeral. That's just the truth. And if you can't run away, don't fight fair. Fighting fair is for martial arts contests. But definitely run away first. The only unfair fight is the one you lost. Taking off all your clothes and snuggle with someone to prevent frostbite or hypothermia. This does not work, you'll just be found dead and naked. It is great for survival of the species though. There are 2 reasons one might strip in the cold. 1. The clothes are wet. 2. Severe hypothermia can cause delirium and the illusion of feeling hot. If you stop shivering, it's a sign you need to warm up immediately, or else you're basically dead. By the time you start stripping, you're far gone to care. I'd imagine this is the most common reason to find naked or half-naked bodies from hypothermia. Right after paradoxical undressing, which already means you're minutes from death, people start terminal burrowing. It's some extremely evolutionarily old instinct that kicks in, and people start trying to bury themselves or crawl into a small enclosed space to die. It's really weird, basically a completely autonomous, involuntary behavior that kicks in. Any higher thought is already done at that point as your brain shuts down. Don't drink water from cactus, it's not potable and likely to trigger vomiting/diarrhea and you'll get more dehydrated. But I heard it was the quenchiest. It'll quench ya. No more cactus juice for you. Alcohol does not warm you up. You feel warm since it's dilating your blood vessels in your face and extremities, but that causes you to lose more heat to the environment and therefore will make you die of hypothermia quicker if anything. I've always wondered this, could alcohol be used as a fuel or accelerant instead of drinking it? I can imagine that if so, that'd actually make it pretty useful. Potentially, but anything one would normally drink, for example vodka, is not quite strong enough to really burn well. But if you happen to get lost while hiking with a bottle of Everclear, gee, I wonder how you got lost, you might be in luck. That bears can't run down hills? They can. They'll get you too. The best defense against a bear is a 22 calories pistol. I was walking with my buddy one time, and a big mean bear came out of the woods. I pulled out the .22, shot my buddy in the knee, and walked off at a brisk pace. That bear never even bothered with me. The classic: you don't have to outrun a bear, you just have to outrun your friends. This adds an extra step to ensure you have an edge. Is this a myth? If you're wandering in the wilderness, wondering if the plants and water are safe to eat and drink, watch what the animals do. They will show you the safe plants and water. Spoiler, this is not true. Many animals are evolved to consume things that are poisonous to us, or nutritionally valueless. Case in point, vultures. My dog ate an entire rancid rotisserie chicken and I was the one who suffered his nasty-ass farts. He, on the other hand, seemed unfazed and only felt mild shame when I discovered what he had done. If I had eaten a rancid chicken, I doubt I would be so fortunate. The best outcome would be hellish food poisoning. And that's a domesticated animal. Wild animals can eat a lot more. Just thinking of all the raw seafood they consume. Coyotes eating raw chicken. Rabbits eating their offspring's actual shit. Some animals eat their parents' shit, instead. Because they aren't born with the gut microbiome they need to survive, so they need to inoculate themselves by eating their parents' poop. Elephants, giant pandas, koalas, and hippos. Moss doesn't give a fuck which side of the tree it grows on. I was taught that moss generally grows on the side where the weather comes from, because there's more water on that side. Good to know how to place the door on your tent. Perhaps not really a myth, but something people may think is true after watching people get rescued from the water on TV. Get them breathing and send them on their merry way. If you rescue someone from a near drowning, they still need to go to the hospital, even though they are safely on land now. The lungs are coated with a slippery mucus-like substance called a surfactant. It's kind of a lubricant and it keeps them from collapsing and sticking to themselves. If they ingested a lot of water into the lungs, chances are they have washed away the surfactant. Their lungs could collapse at any moment and their ability to uptake oxygen is reduced. Get the survivor on oxygen.source, rescue trained scuba diver here. Can confirm. Dry drowning is a thing. Past lifeguard. I saw a heartbreaking story about this on a documentary, where a kid had survived a potential drowning. Everyone thought he was fine and he was functioning normally, so went home with his family. Later that day his lungs collapsed and he dropped dead. If you're unfortunate enough to be in a bank whilst an armed robbery is underway, don't be a hero. The banks are insured and the money can be replaced. Your life can't be replaced. Just because the robber/s didn't go into the bank with the intention of killing anyone doesn't mean they still won't have spooked/challenged. A living witness is better than a dead hero. We did robbery training when I worked in a casino. Didn't need to be told not to give a FK about people taking money that doesn't belong to me, that's for sure. Former gas station manager, they told us in the early 2Ks that we were responsible for the money in the till, so never let anyone have it even if they had a gun. Third robbery, our night guy finally decided to say fuck it and let them have it. Well, that's when I found out with a police report and a bank rep that it's insured and the owner was dipping in on it to make a buck for his own pocket. We all quit. I moved to a franchise BP and was there for 10 years. In colder months especially, if you're lost in the forest/woods, build a bed first. Get your ass off the ground, as the ground will suck your body heat away from you way faster than the air temperature will. To clarify, this is the truth, rather than the myth. Yay, some of these I'm reading and I'm not sure what they want me to do because they just say either advice or a myth. Took me a while to realize people were telling me to stay on a deserted island rather than to try to find a way to civilization. I could honestly see both being certain death, but I'll bet the better odds any time. Splitting up is a good idea. What I heard from a teacher who knows a lot about this kinda stuff, correct me if I am wrong, is that splitting up is only advisable if there are enough people that each group has 2 or more members and if there is dire need. The example he gave was if one of your group is severely injured and can't be easily moved but you are relatively close to somewhere you can get help, a road, a building, footpath or walking trail that is well used, in which case it is acceptable to have one group stay with the injured member and the other continue towards rescue, alerting them of the other group's location so that the appropriate response, like an air ambulance, can locate and rescue them. Not so much a survival myth but a common camping mistake that an amateur survivalist might make: never use rocks that are in or close to a riverbed for a campfire. Ever. Many get tiny bits of water trapped inside the rocks, then when heated by a fire, it turns into a lovely grenade due to the water being heated. AMD turned into steam, expanding quickly. Hot bits of rock everywhere. People like river rocks because they are smooth and easy to cook off of and they look cool, but they are crazy dangerous. Plenty of rocks all around. Find another. We found this out in Scouts when I was around 12. I'm amazed no one got hurt. Everyone just thought it was cool. 12-year-olds are masters of not dying from stuff that should have killed them. I don't know if this counts as survival myth but you don't actually have to, and probably shouldn't, wait 48 hours to report someone is missing. Those first hours are crucial, so report someone is missing immediately. Yeah, that myth was spread by someone whose mother-in-law went missing. For mothers-in-law in some states they say to give it like 6 or 7 days. that you can easily disarm someone holding you at gunpoint. Detroit urban survival flashbacks. I wanna see that dude try that shit in the actual streets of Detroit so bad. Mfers would sell both his earpieces on Craigslist for $5 the next day. Alamau. Landing in water from high up is going to kill you. 10 meters, 15, ma ab 20, tilde you might tilde you'll probably be fine if you land properly. Get much higher than that is getting into broken bones and death territory. Not really advice, but it was a funny thing my brother said. If you ever fall from an airplane and you have the choice between concrete and water, choose concrete. At least that way your freshly crippled body won't have to try and swim afterwards. Nah mate, just take off your shoes when falling and throw them at the last minute to break the surface tension. /s. Punching the biggest guy in prison on your first day. What you need to do is start working out now, so when you get imprisoned, you're the biggest guy in prison. Then you punch yourself, and everybody will keep away from the big crazy guy. Last time I tried that, I accidentally started a club, but I can't talk about it. Zigzag to escape an alligator. Alligators can turn, but will only run in short bursts. Just run as fast as you can. Fun fact, alligators only run for short durations because the way they wiggle when they run compresses their lungs so they can breathe while running. Another fun fact, same. Seems like I heard, if you are within 12 feet he can get you. Outside 12 feet you can get away. Rule of thumb, don't be within 12 feet of an alligator. I'd appreciate if the comments here clarify if the advice they're saying is the myth, or the actual fact that's opposing a myth. Not taking the brace position on planes. For the love of God just brace, it will save you. What if I physically can't because the seat in front of me is too close and I'm too tall? It was nice knowing you. You should always fight back when you are being robed with a deadly weapon. This is false, only counterattack if you have the opportunity to, or unless you do not have any other options. Do not counterattack if someone is aiming a gun towards your head, like in the videos from Detroit Urban Survival. Visit Active Self-Protection on YouTube for better tactics. Alternatively, if someone is trying to take you to a second location, fight like hell because they'll probably kill you at the second location. Street smarts. Water everywhere, so let's all have a drink. Homer Simpson. Also, turning a survival point of reference into a map hat, it might blow away. Do not try to leave a deserted island if you are stuck. You will almost certainly die before someone spots you. There were some collaborate efforts on the net looking for airplane debris, or damaged ships after a massive storm. It's so difficult to tell things apart even from good satellite pictures. Is that something, or just another of the countless reflections and weird shadows? Searching islands is much less surface than searching an ocean. And the chances for water, shelter and food are so much better. Also for planes/helicopters, maybe satellites too if they're strong? On islands they could easily spot man-made structures like debris pulled ashore, fires, and shelters, immediately knowing you're there and to find you. But on the ocean I was told the waves and visibility are so bad you can be directly next to a giant orange raft and not see it. If trapped/lost in snowstorm while driving, A. Do not leave your car. You are literally inside a shelter already. A shiny one. It is easier to spot a snow-covered vehicle than a snow-covered corpse. B. Do not keep your engine running. It's a snowstorm, your exhaust will block, you will nap. Snugga-bugga, you're dead. Wait for storm to pass, check exhaust is clear, run engine in short bursts. C. If you have ignored these steps, and are now walking in the snowstorm, because your sense of direction is flawless, do not remove any clothing layers. You'll believe you are getting hot. You will rationalize it's from burning calories. You will die. The hot feeling is you losing body temp. You are now slowly dying. If you still have your wits, retrace your steps and head straight back to your car. Wait for rescue. But if your car runs off the road and the weather clears, get out and walk or run to nearest town. Your car will most likely not be visible. People have died in Sweden by waiting in their car for days, just an hour's walk from a town. I heard that if you die in Sweden you die in real life. If you get stabbed by something, do not try to remove the object. You will make it worse and potentially bleed to death, depending on where you were stabbed, if you try and pull it out. Leave it be and get help. Furthermore, if you've been stabbed in the eye, leave the object in and cover both eyes. Looking around with your unaffected eye will only encourage additional movement in your damaged eye, so minimize it by covering both. I will try to remember this the next time someone stabs me in the eye. Keep my cool and probably just sit down and wait for the paramedics, sure no problem. Rationing water is generally a terrible choice. Drink what you have until it's gone. Use that time with good hydration levels to take stock of your situation and make good choices. Decision-making and physical ability drop off very quickly when you are dehydrated. The first decisions you make after realizing you are in a survival situation are critical and pay long dividends. Most survival situations are resolved within 72 hours and many hikers are found dead in the desert with full water bottles. I used to work with a guy who spent much of his Air Force career teaching survival to aircrews, and I remember him saying, "Ration sweat, not water," he said, to conserve energy and avoid doing physically strenuous things like constructing a better shelter during the day, but keep drinking water. His other maxim was, if you're not peeing, you're not drinking enough. You absolutely cannot run across the chins and snouts of open gator or croc mouths. You can, however, hold them shut. Almost all their jaw muscles are for chomping with incredible force. Their ability to open their mouths is extremely weak, to the point where an average person can hold a croc's mouth shut with no trouble. Now, this is with the caveat that they're fast as fuck and trying to get the drop on one is a death sentence, but if you have to fight one, you might have a chance at keeping it at bay. Don't tie a rope around your waist and expect it to save you from a fall. Sure, it might prevent you from hitting the ground, but you can still damage your internal organs and break your back doing this. Safety harnesses go around your hips and legs, not your waist. Fucking Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises. My man's gets his back kneed in by a person and is essentially disabled, but survives falling like 100 feet with a thin rope around his waist/lower back without injury. It would essentially be the same or even worse as falling onto a tight rope from that height. Or even worse, much, much worse. For the love of God, do not eat everything raw. If I see another episode of Bear Grylls eating a bat or bird as raw as sashimi, I think I'll go crazy. You should absolutely try your best to cook the food you've nabbed. Even if it's through an open fire for a few minutes. Eating, say, a dead bird that may or may not have bird flu is a hell of a lot worse than creating a fire to cook it over. Congrats for completely screwing yourself by eating raw wild meat. Basically, don't do anything Bear Grylls tells you to do. He's making a television show, not a survival guide. His advice will kill you. Les Stroud, however, is making both. Do what Lay tells you to do. I also love that a huge portion of Les's strategy is VALP, nothing readily available. So instead I'm just going to sit here and use as little energy as possible. Drowning people do not cry for help or make gestures to try and get someone's attention. What they are doing is trying to stay afloat and trying to catch their breath. Never count on a cry for help. This is true of trauma/injuries too. People who are seriously hurt aren't usually the ones screaming and flapping around. They'll more likely be in shock or losing consciousness. If you are on scene at a large accident like a traffic collision or something and it's safe to help, look out for the quiet people. Yep. Was involved as a passenger in a very nasty car wreck. The drivers were yelling and screaming. I was calm, matter of fact, and quiet. I remember the medic asking me what was on the airbag and I calmly said, "That's part of my tongue I bit off. Can you please help me out so I can walk this off?" Yeah, I had 8 broken ribs, a 16-inch gash in my leg, a fractured trachea, and more. I was completely calm until about 2 hours into it at the ER. If you're in a life-threatening situation and lost without supplies, illnesses/diseases in unfiltered water will kill you way slower than dehydration. Drink the damn water and deal with the consequences later, when you're found. You should try your best to filter. Sterilize it first though, boil it, put it through your shirt folded up, etc. But if help is on the way, as in they know where you are and told you to that they are coming for you, and you're quite literally dying from thirst, then drink the water. Opening windows during a tornado. Even as a child growing up in the Midwest, I never understood this. I always thought, doesn't it let the high winds in? I remember in first grade we had a tornado warning and some of the teachers were wasting time by opening windows. Yeah, the idea of opening windows during a tornado was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how they destroyed buildings. People thought they caused buildings to explode because of the change in air pressure, when it's really the winds and debris doing the damage. It's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing. If you go into a lake when in a car, don't wait until the car fills with water, just open the window and get out ASAP. If you wait, you could be 200 feet down or flipped over on the bottom. The power will still work for a short time. It only takes a few seconds. Saw this on Top Gear a long time ago. The quicker you try to escape, the better your odds are. This isn't really a survival myth that anyone spreads, but when I was a kid I thought if I jumped out of a plane on top of a table, I could jump off the table just before hitting the ground, and since the table was below me and therefore was really the falling object, in my child brain, and I was only falling as a result of being on the table, that my upward momentum just before impact would cancel out the rate of descent of the table and I could land safely on my feet. Good thing I never tested it. When I was a kid I had this exact same theory, only for elevators. In my mind, I could just leap off the floor right before impact. For me and elevators, my survival theory was push the squishiest fellow passenger over the second before impact, and then immediately jump in the air above them. There's no point in both of us dying, is there? For more videos, like and subscribe.